Okay, again, so you're going to see in this video, again, that sin has to be committed before it's counted as sin. So you saw at least two, you saw at least twice in my previous videos. One, first, I spoke about the prime example I used. Is that here? No. The prime example I used was Cain and how he had anger and resentment against his brother. And he thought about killing his brother before he killed him. It's common sense. You think about the act before you actually do it. And then you actually commit it in your heart, in your head. And then as you dwell on it, that's when it leads to the action, which is the sin. But if you dwell on it, and then eventually you say, I'm being stupid. What am I thinking? Let me, like, when you use your power of reason, then you forsake those thoughts and you don't commit the sin. God warned Cain. I'm just going to go over this real quick in case this is your first time watching any video on this subject. God warned Cain. Sin is sin is creeping up in your heart, right? It's crouching up in your heart. Now, will you get the mastery over it? So, sin was about to be committed. It wasn't committed yet because it's creeping up to be committed. It's rowling. It's rising up into your hands, into your mouth. You know what I'm saying? You sin when you utter the words. When you blaspheme against the Holy Spirit, or when you blaspheme against God. You know, when you become an apostate, when you utter apostasy, right? When you make a false prophecy in God's name, that's a sin. It's the action. When you strike a man with wicked intent to kill him, if it's by accident, it's not wicked intent. So you just have to flee to the city of refuge, right? Anyway. So Cain didn't commit the sin until he actually killed his brother. If he didn't kill his brother, yeah, the sin was about to be committed, but Cain would have had the mastery over it, as God questioned if he could get the mastery over it. And if he didn't kill his brother, then Cain would have governed mastery over his sinful thoughts, which were not sin yet. Even though it is a sinful thought, it doesn't mean it's a sin yet because it hasn't been committed yet, right? So if Cain held himself back from sinning, even though he had the sinful thoughts, he wouldn't have sinned. And I try to use that as that proof, basically, to talk about when a man looks at a woman and he has desires for her. If he looks at a woman who is married, it can't just be a woman who is not married. You can't commit adultery against an unmarried woman, right? So again, if you disagree with me, whew, man, whew. Anyway, yeah, you can't commit sin against a woman who is not. You can't commit adultery against a woman, or you can't commit adultery with a woman who is not married. And so, or let me make it more simple. You can't commit adultery with a virgin female. So if if Cain couldn't commit the sin until he killed his brother, you can't commit a sin with a married woman just by thinking on those thoughts. But the more you dwell on it, God will question you. Now, will you get the mastery over it? Sin is creeping up, crouching up to be committed. Now, would you, Sam, get the mastery over it? Now, with me, I don't play with that. If you've seen some of my videos, you know I don't play those games. So, what's the other example I wanted to use? Um, the angels. The angels in heaven, some of them saw the daughters of men that they were beautiful, and they, God will tell them, sin is creeping or crouching up into your heart to be committed. Now, will you get the mastery over it? Some of the angels couldn't get the mastery over it, and they actually committed the sin. You really think the angels who committed the sin were the only angels that thought about coming down to sleep with the daughters of men? No. Let's not be stupid. A bunch of them who did not commit the sin thought about it like, yeah, them girls all fair. You know what I'm saying? Like, them breasts, you know what I'm saying? Them hips, them curves. Well, they said, listen, I fear the Almighty way too much. I ain't gonna do it. Well, the Almighty gonna say, oh, because you thought about it, oh, you a sinner, I'm gonna kill you. No, that's ridiculous. Another example. There was an illustration that Christ gave about two sons of a father. Now the father asked the sons to do something. It's already past 5 minutes. I'm still gonna keep it short. One son said he will do it. The other son said he won't do it. At the end of the day, the son who said he will do it didn't do it. The son who said he won't do it did it. So of those two sons, who was the father pleased with? The one who, although he said he won't do it, but actually did it, he was the one that was pleasing to God. How can I intertwine this with to drive home the point? The one God says, do not sleep with a married woman. One son says, yes, Father, I will not sleep with a married woman. Another son says, I will sleep with a married woman. The one who said he will sleep with a married woman, he thought about it. Hence why he said what he said. The son who told the father that he's not going to do what the father told him to do, he thought about not doing what the father told him to do, but he actually did do what the father told him to do. So the thought was a sinful thought, disobeying the father in mind, in heart, but he actually did the action. Now you could say, oh, so a man can profess or do the actions that are pleasing to God, but his heart can be far removed from God. No, that's different. Because if God says give to the poor, well, no, what would be a good example for that? If you're praising God, but your heart is far removed from him, you can't really use that example because you serve God from the heart. And if you love God from the heart, you won't really even be dwelling on things he hates anyway, right? You won't even go that far constantly dwelling on sleeping with a married woman, for example. So let me get back, so because I'm going all over the place. So the son who said he will not sleep with a married woman, he actually went and slept with a married woman, right? So he actually committed the sin. In his heart, he had no crouching of desire to do it. But then eventually he did, and then he committed the sin. The other son who said, I'll sleep with whatever woman I want, right? Like, I don't care what my father says. If that girl's sexy and she's married, I don't care if she got a ring on the finger. I'm gonna sleep with her, right? He said that. When the time came to do it, he's like, or nah, if you got that close, that's debatable whether it's a sin or not. But again, if he got to the point where he got her naked and he still ain't do anything, is that really a sin? No, but that's way too close. But now the one who said, okay, so but this same guy, he said he'll sleep with whatever woman he wants, right? And so he sees a married woman and he's desiring her in his heart, desiring her, fantasizing about her. He's already thought about it, like Christ said, you've committed the sin in your heart with her already. But then eventually he comes to his senses and he's like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do it. Of the two sons, who was pleasing to you? Get the point, right? Now let me touch on what I deviated onto about the son. Oh, those who worship God on the outside, but their hearts are far removed from him. Why is this one not applicable to what I'm explaining here? Because you worship God from the heart anyway. You worship God from the heart. Worship to God is not outward doings. And besides, you can't can a person can a person claim to love God, but then their hearts are far removed from Him, but then go and give to the poor. If like you you can't fool God that way. And since this is for God, right? But is that really sin though? But again, like sin requires shedding of blood and things like that. So we use sin too casually. The word sin, you know, you don't want to give to the needy, but God told you you have to give to the needy, and you're like, ah, all right. And you see the needy, and all right, here. That man is not a sinner. He's doing what God is requesting of him, even though he's doing it begrudgingly. He's still doing what God requests of him. That's not a sin. And someone who, oh, I gotta serve God. I gotta go and pray tonight. All right, let me go pray and get it over with. You know, and they go and they pray. No, that's is that a sin? I don't want to say that's a sin because you have to really understand what sin is. Like, again, we use that word too casually. It may not be a sin. It may be. I'm not gonna say it is or it's not. But if it's not, it's still not pleasing to God. Just like there are certain things, as you know from my videos, I explained there are certain things that God permits that are not sinful because if it's a sin, He would not permit it. So He permits it. So it's not a sin, but it's still displeasing to Him. It's what He doesn't want. He rather it not happen that way. You know, He rather you not serve Him begrudgingly. Is it a sin? I don't know. I'm not gonna say it is or it's not. That's not my place to say. I fear God way too much to even speak on that. But that's definitely not pleasing to Him. Oh, it's time for me to pray. Let me go pray and get it over with. Oh, I got some food in front of me. Man, I could never have such a spirit. But I'm just trying to understand. And bear with me. You could finish the video. You could stop the video, right? I'm just rambling, thinking, trying to understand the tangent that I went on. Or it's time to eat. I gotta give thanks. Thank you, God, for this meal. I could never be like that, yo. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, I think I'm gonna end the video here. I got nothing much more to say. I kind of lost myself anyway in such a foolish person. You know, yeah, I could never be like that. But anyway, peace. Thanks for watching.